Thanks for joining us as we review the movie Arrival, otherwise known as
a non-zero sum game.
That's what they said in the movie. So this came out in 19. I did it again. 1916.
Wow,
It's black and white. It came out in 2016, and I thought it did pretty well. Basically, in this movie, we're talking about. It's a science fiction film that delves into the themes of communication, time, and the human connection. The story follows Dr. Louise Banks, played by Amy Adams, a skilled linguist who is recruited by the U.S. military after 12 mysterious alien spacecraft appear in various locations around the world. Now, I'll say right now that it sets this up like this, as these alien spacecraft just appear out of nowhere, basically. And just pop in, right? There's sort of these elongated egg-shaped type of things that appear, and it confuses people. And you see what the people's reactions are. You have everything from completely over the spectrum, from let's welcome them with open arms to they're a threat, let's shoot them and ask questions later, right? You have that whole gamut of reception. So Louise then, alongside physicist Ian Donnelly, played by Jeremy Renner, aka Hawkeye, is tasked with deciphering the complex language of the extraterrestrial heptapods to understand their purpose on Earth. Now, so these two are put together. They don't know each other ahead of time. They're not friends. They become friends in this journey together. Actually, a little more than friends. We're in this spoiler-free territory. We're going to hit spoiler territory here real soon. But they get together and they work on it. She's coming from it from the side of being a linguist. He's coming at it from the side of being a mathematician and a scientist. So they're pulled in by the U.S. military and said, please help us. So whether you're pro-military or not, this is a great opportunity to be able to possibly work out how we're going to be able to communicate with these extraterrestrials. So as Luis and Ian work to communicate with the aliens they name Abbott and Costello, Luis begins to experience vivid flashbacks of her past, particularly of her deceased daughter, Hannah. Now, we're going to stop right there because this description going forward enters into spoiler territory. Now, this is an after watch party. So we've invited...
So spoilers are fine.
Spoilers are fine. But I want to just put this in here a little bit for anybody just joining right off the bat to say, hey, going forward from here, we're going to do it. But I do want to do a spoiler-free review real quick. Before we move on, please take a moment and like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you can't, I can't tell you how much this really helps us out. The subscribers really, doing the subscription really does help. And the likes help spread it out to more people. You can always unlike later if you actually hate us. So, Eric, on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate? Just the rating itself on a scale from 1 to 10.
That's an 8.
Okay, you and I actually agree on this. I would also put it at an 8. I thought you didn't like this.
I like complaining a lot.
So, okay, originally you told me before we started.
It's an okay movie.
So you rewatched it again recently.
It's better rewatching it.
Okay.
It's one of those ones that get better with rewatching, unlike Interstellar, which gets worse every time you watch it, and you realize you got to subtract 2 every time you rewatch it.
Oh my gosh, you really hated that show.
Oh, being inconsistent with your characters drives me nuts.
You actually talked me into lower rating with that one, and I think I might have talked you into higher rating with this one. Yeah, this is you'd almost have to see this one again to catch it, because there's some things that go on here that make it difficult. So going forward from here, we're going to be hitting into spoiler territory. Let me put that little warning up here so that everybody can see it.
Good, because it's all built off of lies.
What, this one?
That introduction is all a bunch of lies.
Lies. Okay. All right, we'll get back to I'm going to continue the synopsis. I had to stop the synopsis right there because the summary, because it starts to get into the twist that's in here. And yeah, if you're watching this first
flashbacks.
Time through, they're not flashbacks.
They're not flashbacks.
They're not flashbacks. They're flash forwards. You don't.
Although
realize
they do play it off really well. It makes you think they are flashbacks. So you have to take almost a double take just to make sure that, oh shoot, no, that's not right.
Yes, that's true. And that's where watching it again might actually help. So I'm going to give you the reason why I rated it a 10. This is in spoiler territory now, so I can give you a reason why. And I want to know from you guys watching, if you watch in the comment section, if you watch this and you want to give your rating, please put it in the chat, or let us know. I will give you this so you can go ahead and prep that. Let us know what the we're going to put the link in there so you can join us live. We can put you on video. If you don't want video, just want audio, that's fine. Or if you just want to make comments in the chat. And we're setting this up right now because I'm so good at this. I totally forgot about doing this ahead of time. So the reason why did I give it an 8? Number one, the good reasons. I thought it did well with introducing difficult concepts. And there's a couple of difficult concepts that were in here. There's many, but there's two that really rose to the top. One was connecting with the Wondrous. We talked about this before. Reaching out and wanting to. I watched it. I'm curious to see if you guys had this interest too. Wanting to connect with these aliens, wanting to be able to communicate, wanting to reach out, shake their hand. I don't know if that's possible. Shake their squiddly little appendages.
I don't know. They seem to be pretty abrupt whenever they hit the
Oh, yeah. That kind of makes it a jump effect.
I'm not sure if I want to try to shake their hand. They might take it off.
Yeah. I think. Do I have that in here? No.
No, those are the aliens.
Those are the aliens. Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Smacking that window makes it a little abrupt. I think right here when she puts her hand up there and bam, that's a little jump scare. So introducing difficult concepts. One is connecting with the Wondrous. I think they did a good job at that, at capturing that. And then another difficult concept is nonlinear time. And that was kind of really woven into this, the whole picture. Would you mind muting that, please? I'm sorry. It should have been muted ahead of time. The other thing that was good was character development with Louise, a little bit with Ian, but mostly with Louise because it really focusing on her. And the polar reaction to the aliens. And what I mean by polar is you had, like we said earlier, either you want to shoot them or you want to say, welcome him in. Now, here's something that happened remember Independence Day?
Yes.
Okay. You got the people that go up to the top of one of the skyscrapers in LA, and they got the signs there, and they're all doing this weird thing, and they're all chanting and stuff like this. And they got these signs saying, welcome aliens, welcome friends. Well, these guys open their bomb bay doors and totally obliterate them.
Yep.
Right. And so
annihilation.
Yeah.
Not in this movie.
That was a real possibility. This could have happened.
Movie.
Right. What's that?
Just make it clear that's in a different movie, not in this one.
Yeah. Right. Independence Day. So that's a possibility that could happen. Then you have this other possibility of wanting to make contact. So it could have gone either way, right? And not knowing, people want to make these reactions, say, listen, maybe it is better if we shoot first and ask questions later. So that was dealing with those polar reactions. What I didn't like, I marked it down because it was confusing in places, primarily because of the nonlinear time. You can't really help that. It's going to be confusing if things are not necessarily sequential. And the whole concept of thinking in another language allows me to break the arrow of time. Now, this was a big one.
That was a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So they had the concept in here that believing that the future and the past, if you and this is true, if you can really know another language enough that you're fluent in it, you'll start to see things a little bit differently. For example, if you live in a land that has a lot of snow, you might have many words for snow, and you can think of things differently. There's a tribe in Madagascar, an indigenous people group in Madagascar, I believe, where they think of the future as, instead of walking into the future, walking forward, you're walking backwards into the future. And you might think, why is that? That's kind of weird.
Bit odd.
But it is
That's
backwards,
strange.
right? But their idea is that you can't see the future. You can only see the past. So as you're walking back into the future, it comes into view. And I thought, well, that really does kind of make sense. But their concept of time would be different than our concept of time. And so you can start thinking of different ways. And if somebody knows a foreign language that they want to chime in to say, hey, they know this foreign language, and they can start wrapping their arms around it a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead and check the chat now and see what we got. Okay, so Thomas Hall said, I could see a third option. We could just be another animal to them and not worthy of notice. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that's true. What if there is intelligent life out there? You have the Fermi paradox. And I guess one of the answers to the Fermi paradox is we're just like basic amoeba. Nobody really cares about us. They're just going on their merry way until they want to put an intergalactic highway through our solar system. And then, so much for the Earth.
Goodbye and thanks for all the fish.
Right.
That's all I got to say about that.
So believing that this is where they said Louise was starting to have a vision of the future. She was remembering things that are going to happen because as she learned the aliens' language, the heptapods' language, she was beginning to see how they see, and that is the past. You can remember the past and you can remember the future. And that was happening to her in the movie. You don't realize that, I think, until the end about her whole question with her daughter. So, but that was a concept they said in there. Believing that the future and the past are the same does not allow you to see the future any more than believing all locations are the same can suddenly transport you to Paris, France. Just believing that you can transport there doesn't make it happen. Just believing that you can remember the future doesn't make it happen. So I agree with them in how languages conform your way of thinking, but not to that extent.
Not to that extent.
Would you? What are your thoughts on that?
My biggest issue, my biggest negative for this was, okay, so she can basically see the future, right? She's a worthless parent. I mean, what did she do the whole thing is her daughter is going to die. She's got this rare disease that she's going to die. Right. She hasn't even married her husband yet.
Right.
They haven't. Eventually, she tells her husband, and her husband leaves because he doesn't want to deal with it or something like that.
Yes.
So, and it's Hawkeye. That's the husband. That's the whole reveal thing. But she does nothing to try to help develop a cure for this issue.
I bet it doesn't say that she doesn't. She still does. Now, here, I think it
doesn't show that she does.
I think this was a pro-life message. Whether they intend or not, at least it's not a pro-abortion message, right? Yeah. Pro-choice means you can go either way. The pro-choice people, have, generally speaking, are thinking more. This generation is more pro-abortion than it is pro-choice. But one of the statements that Louise makes at the end, I'm going to quote this. She said, "Despite knowing the journey and where it leads, I embrace it and welcome every moment of it." And then it's having flashbacks of her daughter. She decides to still go through with pregnancy and birth and everything, even knowing that her child's going to die early as a child.
And I don't disagree with that. The thing I disagree with is they didn't show her at all trying to save her. Just let it happen.
I don't know.
There's no evidence.
There's no evidence, but I don't think that's really the point. But the point is, she still decides to have the child, even though, and I don't know how many people, women and men, decide we're going to kill the child before it's born because the child's going to have problems. I say, wait until the child's 2, 3 to find out if it really does have the problems, and then go ahead and kill it. I mean, if you kill it in the womb and you kill it later, I mean, I'm not actually advocating that.
I'm just saying, you better watch
no, I'm not actually advocating.
You're going to get kicked off YouTube real quick.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going back to the comments before I put insert foot into mouth again. And there we go. Oh, wait a minute. He had another comment here.
Nerds.
Yes, we have arrived. That
is true. Now, I'd say the most pro thing about this is the dealing with non-linear time. How would an entity from outside of our space and time be able to deal with us? or even communicate to us.
Well, okay, that's another thing that he had the problem with. I had a problem with this movie too. And we're going to get back to the rest of the synopsis here in a minute, in case by chance you haven't seen it and you really want to know what's going on in the movie. They were these super intelligent aliens, at least enough to have faster than light travel or interdimensional travel or whatever to be able to get here. Shouldn't the burden be on them to learn our language? If they're that smart.
Theirs?
Yeah. It's like you arrive and you're going to a foreign country, and unless you're an American, you would expect that you would have to learn their language instead of the other way around. I said that because, English.
Universal trade language.
Yeah. So you would think that would kick in that way, that they would be able to speak the language first. All right. So back to the comments here. Thank you, Thomas. You have come to our defense. And yes, Francis, you must love the nerds because he has returned. And yes, that is true. Okay, now I must object to this, that the title is referred. If you have not seen it yet, David Wood got together with Mike Winger, and it was not a cage match. I was
that was an old video, by the way.
Was that an old video?
That was an old. You talking about what?
Recently posted.
Yeah, recently posted. Sorry, nope. That one's an old video.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know
an old,
that.
super
I thought
old
it was.
video.
I'd like to see a cage match between those two. Not really, but yes, maybe a theological cage match. We can share it too. Okay, so I wanted to review. Before I do that, I want to make sure that I catch your reason for the rating. Why did you rate it what you did? And then anybody else want to chime in on what their rating was for this movie? Please do, and then we'll talk about your.
Well, the negative again is mostly because there was no show of. It's a question of, are we locked in time? By what is shown in the movie, it does say basically we're locked in time. It doesn't indicate that we can change the future. She didn't change anything about her future with her kid, which I think would have been a great example of, yes, we can alter the future.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If you have knowledge of the future, does that mean you can alter it or not? Or are you doomed to do whatever's there?
Now that would be a question, if
there's no free will, right?
Yep. If you had a God who's outside of space and time, could he still be in absolute control at the same time as having free will?
Yes.
So yes. And
yeah.
I think that's what really this movie really lets us explore from the secular standpoint, from at least the standpoint of aliens, looking at it that way, as dealing with a God who knows everything that is to come, has happened outside of space and time, not stuck to our linear time frame, but yet we still have free will.
Do I hear a theme coming out here?
That is the thing. That is like 99% of the reason why I gave it such a high rating.
Oh, okay.
That was about it.
We haven't got to our thematic review yet, but that sounds good. Now, remember, we're going to be asking you guys about that's the whole point of this channel is the thematic review, to be able to pull out these eternal truths that are here and be able to relate this to other people. Say, hey, I was talking to someone today about a movie. It was Atlas. And bringing this up.
Okay.
And I missed my opportunity. I could have brought up one of the themes that we're talking about. I'm kicking myself in the butt because that was there. But there's also, you have to judge when's the right time to be able to talk to somebody about that. But here's an example. You can talk about this, and we'll get to other things that we could use as themes or as parables to be able to talk with people about. So that's one of the reasons, or probably the primary reason why you would give it an 8 is because of that. Okay. So checking the chat here to see. Now I'm curious to see how many have actually seen it. So we got Francis. Arrival movie was good, but the scenic music was more emotional than anything. Yeah, I would. It was a little bit slower pace, but I think the pacing and the music went with it, made it more dramatic. I think that kind of made it more expansive and gave you time to think about it. This was not an action-packed movie. If you're looking for shoot, bang 'em up, explosions or whatever, this isn't your movie. This is more of a sit down and think movie than anything else. And there's another movie that came out a while back, 1984, and I'm going to draw a parallel and comparison to that here in a bit too. And I think this is a throwback to the earlier part of the conversation. It said David altered the future. He was told if he stay in the city, he would be captured. So he left.
Yeah, there's an example.
But that's an if.
If you stay in here, well, most of the you think about it. I mean, would most of the prophecies being told to the kings of Israel be useless if they're just saying, well, it doesn't matter what you do? What would be the point of all the ifs?
No.
If you consider this, then this will happen. If not, then not.
Well, I mean, you see that all through the Old Testament, even after the giving of the law, you got the blessings and the curses, right? That are given. Was it Mount Horeb and the other mountain, to say that if you follow these good things will happen. If you don't, these bad things will. I don't know how many times I've told my kids this. If you do this is what. I don't know if that's so much a prophecy as it is now in David's situation that may have been a little more prophetic, because it's not necessarily saying this is if you run outside in the snow without your shoes and you stay out there for several hours shivering and you get wet, you're probably going to get sick. That's not so much a prophecy. That's a cause and effect.
No, I think in David's case, it was definitely
that was a prophecy
that was given.
Right.
And it said, okay, I'm getting my butt out of here because I'm actually paying attention to these things. I'm not like these bunch of lame kings that are going to come by later on or going to sit on their butts doing nothing, even though it's being smacked in their face repeatedly by prophets.
Right. And I think we got a follow-up here to this one. He says, there was no if in the prophecy. David was told you will be captured. Okay. I need to if you happen to know that reference, bring that up. That's something that might be worthy of study. Beyond the scope of today's, because I had to go back and read it. Beyond the scope of today's live stream, but it still might be worth looking at and saying, okay, what's going on here? So you're saying, okay, was there an alternate timeline where David did not leave? Is there any alternate timelines in God's plan? So there is some trivia here. Before I continue the synopsis, I want to go over some trivia. Now, Eric, this movie was directed by Denis Villeneuve. If you try to pronounce his name, it looks like Dennis. It's not. He pronounces it Denis Villeneuve. We recently reviewed another movie that he directed. Do you know which one it was? Does that name sound familiar? I'm really putting you on a spot here.
No, it doesn't sound familiar, but I'm thinking it might be Interstellar.
Nope, not Interstellar. Nope. You want to get one other shot?
No.
It was a big one that just came out this year.
I don't know.
Dune.
He
did Dune.
Wow,
so,
Dune made a lot more sense.
Yeah. Well, there was some nonlinear stuff in there too, because you had prescience.
You got the prescience, right? But yeah, you knew that was what was. You knew that it was. It wasn't this bait and switch like, oh man, I'm so depressed about my daughter's death. Oh wait, I don't have one.
That's right. I get to have a daughter and be depressed about her death. All right, so this is the director, Denis Villeneuve, and he's the one who did it. Now, there is the spaceship that's involved in this. While the shape of the ship was decided early on, the director had great difficulty imagining an interior that would allow humans to easily navigate through such a steep vertical design. I think here's another one far off as they're approaching. You see this like it's elongated shape. I think they designed it after an asteroid that they had detected. It had this kind of oddball shape. But they had a hard time imagining how an interior like this would allow humans to easily navigate through such a steep and vertical design. Later, they decided to turn gravity sideways.
Now that gets a weird shot.
That is a really cool picture. When they come in.
You look down and people are walking on the ground and you're standing on the wall. It's weird.
Yes. I think I have a shot of that one. But that was one thing. So then there was the book. The movie was based on the novella named Story of Your Life, written by Ted Chiang. He had approved the film, saying, I think it is the rarest of the rare, and that it's both a good movie and a good adaptation. And when you when you consider the track record of adaptations written science fiction, that's almost literally a miracle. So he was happy that they did a good adaptation of this. And I would agree that it's hard to, there's some issues with how Dune was taken, stuff like that. And we got a lot of flack because people say, I don't care about the book. You know, it goes forward. But on the other hand, the audiences did not like the original name of the film, and which was Story of Your Life. So it was changed to Arrival. So they didn't like his. Checking the comments quickly. We have Francis and Thomas. Thomas said, I already got that one. Francis, a large oval egg. Yeah, that's what it pretty much looks like. So
1 Samuel 23, 9 through 13.
Okay. Thanks, Thomas. Well, I think this might be worthy of taking a look at, maybe even do a Bible study later on this to say, okay, how does free will and the sovereignty of God, how does that mesh together? Because if God's totally in control, then am I morally responsible? And if I have free will, does that mean that he's not in control? So how do those two coincide? This might be a good passage to take a look at and see where it goes from there. So now that we're in spoiler territory, I want to go ahead and finish with some more of the synopsis. As Luis and Ian work to communicate with the aliens they named Abbott and Costello, Luis begins to experience the past. She has vivid flashbacks of her past, particularly of her deceased daughter, Hannah. These visions are revealed to be not memories, but premonitions at the heptapod's perception of time is nonlinear. So this is what we were talking about earlier, is that they think differently than what we think. And their communication, their language is circular. There's no beginning and there's no end. And there's several images throughout the movie where things are not linear. The hallway that she's walking around in the hospital where her daughter is, it goes around in a circle. There's no beginning, no end. And so you see these come through. Another image that you see, another symbol that you see a lot is clouds, that you have that kind of symbolism that's there as well. You can't perceive what's actually there until it comes into view. And that's what, like the heptapods, they reach out and you see their hands. They're not in view. They're always there, but as they come into focus. So go back to this. The heptapod's written language, which they share with Luis, allows humans to experience time in a similar way, perceiving future events as already happened. This profound understanding of the time is the heptapod's gift to humanity, as intending to unify the world by showing all moments are interconnected. And so this was a big part of what was happening in the movie too, not just with what's going on with her, but the heptapods were saying, we're trying to save you so that you guys can save us later. Remember that part of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, coming through.
So 400 years, we'll need your help. Hope you're still around.
And I guess the idea was partially that we would, if they didn't come and help us, then we wouldn't be available to help them, right?
Theoretically.
So, thematic review. This is the best part of the review of this video. We ask if there are any Christian themes in this movie, and what themes do you see here that align with the Bible, that are parallels that you can use to deliver God's message of hope to a dying world. Again, we are not saying that the movie's directors, producers, or writers intended this movie to be Christian in any way. But we are saying that often these messages are there in these movies, not all the time, but often that they are. And they can be used as an analogy, just as farmers spreading seed did not think of that as they were not mindful of that as a way of spreading God's word. Jesus used it as an analogy to say that it's like spreading the gospels, spreading seeds. So in the same way, we could use some themes and some messages that are in these stories to use those as an analogy for kingdom principles. So this is open call-in. You guys can call in if you like, not necessary. We're going to put this this reminder back up. And this is why we do the after party, is to get as much feedback as you guys are. I'm not going to say what the themes are here that we see. You've shared one already. And this is going to be a kickoff.
That's like the treasure trove from in my book, because it's hard for linear creatures to wrap their mind around non-linear time, or a being that is non-linear by its nature.
Yeah.
Or outside it. Well, it would be outside of space and time.
Right. Yeah. So that is what your theme is. You can introduce this as saying that's a deep one. So someone have to see this movie, but then you could say, hey, just like these guys are, maybe in another way, God's like this, right?
That, or just ask, if God is, say you have an eternal being who's outside of space and time, like these aliens were, how do you think he would communicate with us? How would he open that door?
That is a good one.
Why would he have even created us to begin with? All these questions are questions that you could dive in.
Or a deist who says that, well, God did create everything, but then he just went on lunch and just left us alone.
Yeah.
Okay, it was nice, cool. I made this little thing, and I'll just spin them off, and they're on their own now.
I think you could go back. You could take it now. This is one of the more popular in one of the videos I made years and years ago, where it relates the Big Bang to how that could point to God.
Mm-hmm.
How you could have the only way for the Big Bang to have actually occurred is if you had a being who is outside of space and time that could affect what is inside of space and time and cause the Big Bang to happen.
Right.
So that is always a good option.
Joshua said, I am a provisionist and opposed to Calvinism, and means free will and God's sovereignty both exist. It's a metaphysical matter. Okay. Well,
it's a metaphysical.
I guess theologically speaking, I'd be in the Armenian camp. I would agree with you. Have some Christian brothers and sisters that would say nope, that it is totally God's will. I don't think that's incompatible. I don't think you have a God who is. You can have God totally in charge, and you can have us totally responsible at the same time. The question is how. How does that work? It's a little difficult. So it's like the Trinity. Say there are parts of God that are. This isn't a cop out. This is because he is God and he's beyond comprehension.
I already have a video. God and the Big Bang.
You have a video on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That one was done years and years ago, though.
Oh.
I should probably do it.
You should probably refresh it, because I think it'll
do it. Repost it again. That was a fun one.
So
that was my wife's favorite one.
No, this is a good point. You can even bring this up maybe as an analogy from this movie and pull it out as a theme and say, is there a part of this movie that would support or deny what you're saying there? So that would be a good question. Themes. I'm going to leave my biggest for last. And while I'm waiting for more people here in the chat, for those who have seen or just even guess on this to provide themes of your own. This is why we're doing this after party. Is the idea is that, hey, we want to pull in themes from you guys, want to basically learn together how to do this and how to pull them out. I have, like I said, I have 8 of them. I don't think I'll be able to cover them all tonight because it's really too much. One in particular that's a wallop that we talked about before on previous videos. This one also supports it. Thomas Hall said, it's almost as if God would have set aside some of his supremacy and become a servant. Interesting concept.
Almost as if you got it out of the Bible or something like that. Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any kind of scripture that would back that up? That would be kind of
quite a bit.
Just
a little bit.
How about like a third of the prophecy of the Old Testament or something? Yeah.
How about the entire purpose of the Bible from beginning
the
to
entire
end?
Purpose of Israel? Yes, God's redemptive plan. He knew it before the. Well, there you go about the sovereignty of God. He knew about it before the foundations of the world. Oh, there's a good one. There's a good one. Jesus was the Lamb of God, is the Lamb of God, who was sacrificed before the foundations of the world. He knew basically that's going to happen. You know, it was the cross that we're doing, but in a non-linear concept of time within heaven, in the spiritual realm, if it's non-linear, doesn't matter, or it's multidimensional, whatever the situation is, beyond our comprehension. He knew beforehand, God did, that the cross, sacrifice, all of that would have to happen before he created human beings.
Yes, he was willing to go through that pain and suffering.
He was, that's it. Point. He was willing to do that. Now, in this movie, Louise was willing to do that, even though she knew she was going to lose her daughter. She thought it is better to have the relationship with the daughter, even though there's pain involved. Now, she's not being cruel to the daughter. The daughter's just going to have a short life and then see where things go from there. Okay, so it looks like headphone time because we got Joshua, and we will try to see. We'll do a sound check and see how this goes. And I got another comment from Thomas Hall that I want to hit at the same time. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. And I believe we can hear you too. So that's good. All right. Did you want to add anything to this before I get the comment from Thomas?
Yeah, I took notes.
Wow.
I did like the beginning of the movie and the end. It's sort of harmonized with this concept of time, like the main character Louise, right? Louise.
Yes.
She was realizing that she's finite, right? And sort of humans have, like you said, the linear concept of time. And I hold to more of a presentist time. Like humans, we know time as we are in it, but God is eternal to time. So he's a eternalist, right? So he inhabits past, present, and future. So we kind of see that. And then like throughout the whole movie, it was sort of confusing because she was like predicting things, but she was in the eternity sense. It was sort of confusing until the end, and then I realized what was going on the whole time.
Yeah, that's a very hard thing to try to show in a film.
Again, like I said, it's better the second time through.
Yeah, if you watch it a second time, because I did watch it. I did watch it more than once. First time I thought, she was burdened. You see in the beginning, she's alone. She's in her home. Her mom calls. She's all by herself. She's teaching in this class and doesn't even look like she's enjoying it. She's saying stuff and nobody's really paying much attention. And you think,
the kids were on their phones and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she's very much alone. And you think, well, and then you see pictures of her losing her daughter. You think, oh, she's still recovering from this. No. This doesn't happen till later.
You guys are cheating on that one.
Yeah.
So she hadn't had the opportunity to learn the vision thing.
Yeah. So if I were to write this, I don't know. This is probably the best way. I think probably one of the best ways to present this, because you don't realize it's happening until the end. It's a big twist. I think.
A bunch of timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
No, I'm familiar with the Star Trek series, but I have not watched all of them.
Okay. Deep Space Nine, they have aliens that are nonlinear in their perception of the universe and in time. So they're continuous like that. And so this is not the first time this kind of concept has come around. Can you think of any others?
Yeah. Not off the top of my head, but I think this one was probably one of the best ways of handling it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another movie, and this is what I was going to compare it to too. And I'm going to bring up the image for that. This was a long time ago. This came out in 1968. There was a movie called 2001: Space Odyssey. It had these monoliths these black monoliths.
It's weird.
Basically, it's very hard and it's very abstract.
It's very weird.
They're basically like these black plates. They're yeah,
dun.
a lot of music with it. And this type of thing you see a lot through popular culture too. So these almost like big doors. I mean, not the doorway, but just flat, like a big plank, and maybe 10, 12 feet tall or so, and maybe 6, 8 feet wide. And they would just appear. They appeared in our past, they appeared in our present, and then in the future. And it's a big mystery of what it was. In 1984, they came out with a prequel or a sequel to it. It was 2010. And that's what this one was. 2010, the year they made contact. And there's a lot of similarities between that one and this one. In this one, you have the spaceships instead of the monoliths standing straight up. You have the spaceships that are standing straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of non-linear kind of presentation that was saying you have this astronaut that gets sucked into this like black hole type of thing, and you see him as a baby, like what you see here with there's the astronaut. He appears as a baby, and then he appears as an old man later. And
right.
Again, kind of like non-linear things that goes with it. So of all your notes there, we can't go through. I think you had 3 pages. Is there anything else that you want to highlight from those?
Hey, he did his homework.
Absolutely.
I'll give him that.
Yes.
He did a better homework than I did.
Anything that you want to bring forth from that?
Well, I would note that it's refreshing to see they had like squid aliens. Usually aliens are depicted as the grays or the green Martians, right?
Right.
So that's a little different. Also, what was it? The cameo, I know it's not a cameo, but the guy that played Hawkeye, Ian, right?
Yes.
He said that language is the foundation of civilization. I sort of agree, but technically the foundation of everything is mathematics, which language would be a part of that.
I think Louise said it was language, and because that's her expertise, it's foundation of
right. He was the mathematician.
Right. He said it was
right. Yeah.
So I guess you could. Math is incredibly important as far as in math. You can think of math as a type of language anyway. It's like the language of science.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that was good. There were some very good quotes that were in this movie that I think that are worth reflecting on. Now, let me ask: is there anything that you saw in here that would be a kingdom principle or a biblical principle that can be used as an analogy? It said, just like what Eric was saying earlier, you could bring something out too for a theme.
That's a good question. Well, don't communicate with aliens or demons. I would add that.
That's normally a good step.
Yeah.
I think we can communicate with aliens. I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, just make sure they're not aliens.
There is a theory that given the evidence of most of the claims of alien abductions and all that stuff, it seems to indicate that these encounters are from a different dimension, but they're more demonic rather than like your little green, Martian friend,
Right.
But I like the concept of this kind of stuff. And it was interesting. There was 12 invader ships, right? Or something.
Yes.
Which 12, we see that number all through the Bible. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know where that would come through as a particular analogy. You have 12
disciples, 12 tribes of Israel.
You do. You also have 12 hours in the morning, 12 hours in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Memory services. Was it the 12 candle? Talking about Revelation. I don't remember. There are 12 churches.
No, seven churches. Seven churches in Revelation. There you also have 12 signs of the zodiac. That's not biblical, but I'm just saying that number 12 comes up. I think that might be, why do we have 12 hours of the day? That might be a throwback to, believe it or not, ancient Babylon. I know 60 is a number that was based on them. 360 degrees of the circle, that goes back to them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's very interesting that all that is that old. You can think of that as like QWERTY keyboards. Why are we still using QWERTY keyboards? Because it was over 150 years ago. How that got, it's a whole history behind that. That's interesting. But so I'm gonna. Is there any other theme that because there's a couple of things from Thomas I want to pick up here. Any other themes that you saw in here that you thought that this would be something? If you were talking to a friend of yours, didn't know anything about God, and you want to introduce them to Jesus and so forth, and you just sat down and watched this movie together, and you're thinking, hey, this would be a good bridge, a good segue to bring about a conversation with them. Those are the kind of questions that we'd be asking here.
Yeah, I will take a glance at my notes. Go ahead and bring up Thomas.
Okay, so Thomas, they just written comments. If I could, I'd get them on screen. Thomas said, it's almost as if, okay, we had that one. Okay, the real question is, did we find out who's on first? With Abbott and Costello. No, they never mentioned that. They never mentioned it. And I liked the Close Encounter is mathematical language. Yeah, that's a good point. If I draw the parallel between this and 2010, have you ever seen that one before?
No.
Okay, so this was like 82 or something like that when that came out. Very old. Very old. Yes, and here we have our badge of honor from the great Francis Poole himself. It is. It is. It's getting deep. A lot of nerdiness here. So while you're looking at that, I'm going to bring up one other theme that's in here: communication, understanding. The central theme of Arrival is communication. The effort to understand and communicate with the extraterrestrial heptapods reflects a broader and often spiritual quest of understanding and connection. For Christians, this can parallel the importance of communicating the gospel and understanding God's will. The film's emphasis on a language and communication can be seen as a metaphor and need to understand God's message. Now, it is so important that God, his desire to make connection with us. You have the word become flesh. In Christianity alone, do you have, and Francis can maybe even chime in on this one, for Islam, but I believe all other religions, from Buddhism to even to some extent Judaism, you have the written word or the written law down. This is God's message. This is it. This is God's message. In only Christianity does that become flesh, that the written word of God here becomes flesh, that he now dwells in us. And it's not just a written communication, but it's a personal communication side by side with each one of us.
There's a couple of interesting concepts on that. And as far as Islam goes, you do have the Jesus is the word of Allah. So he is in that sense that, but they don't explain why or how or what that matters at all.
Right.
So Mom probably heard Christians say that. And it's like, oh, okay, so I'll just add that on to his titles there. We'll just stick that on there and go with it. But yeah, you don't have, according to many Muslims, you don't have Allah entering into creation, although they do have Allah entering into creation in some hadith, specifically entering into the lowest heaven in order to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
What?
He said seventh.
Yeah, in the seventh heaven, yeah.
Yeah, down to from the top of the seventh heaven where his throne is, entering into the lowest heaven at the last third of the night in order to hear if anyone is praying to him. Don't ask me why a God that's supposed to be all-knowing needs to enter into creation, go to the lowest heaven in order to listen. It gets iffy.
Yeah, and one of the eternal aspects of God is he's omnipresent, at least in Christianity. So that would be another aspect that would be here, that we, even though he's everywhere present, you still have the immediate presence of Jesus being further extension of that. So, and that's more for our relatability to him. So we got another comment here from
my wife,
the Queen of Nerds. She says, just jumped on, but whoa, Joshua Wooden has a real human face and everything. Good to see you out of the comment section. So I guess she knows you?
Yeah, I jump on to most of the whole Christian YouTube scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, the super. So this is the nerd zone. This is the super nerd zone. So we welcome.
I don't know if I want to be associated with this anymore.
It's too bad. Too bad you're associated with it. Thomas says it baffles me that in Islam Jesus is the Messiah and the Word, but it means nothing. I want to know if I were Muslims. Want to know if I were a Muslim. I think.
Well, that, and he's also a spirit from Allah. So it's like he's got all these huge titles, but according to Islam, his whole job was to come here, spread, the Quran in his time period to the people and spread Islam that way. And according to history, he completely failed. If that was his mission as Islam,
because it got corrupted and he died. Correct.
He died and got corrupted. Well, he was taken up to Allah.
He was right because he was not the one who died.
Not killed on the cross, because
according to
substitutional atonement only works when you're Jesus. When you're Jesus of Islam.
I'm saying, what do you think the Jews were doing with the sacrificing? Where is that in Islam? If that was what the message was.
Well, then you got sacrifices. The day of resurrection, you have Jews and Christians being sacrificed to hell for the sins of Muslims. So you also have that part.
Okay. So we also have Francis Boole. He said, El Iso Elohim is in the chat. The nerds are getting nerdier. Brilliant. And she has some follow-up. Yes. At Joshua Wooden, thank you for supporting each of us in our journey to glorify God. It's awesome working alongside you, brother. Yeah, I would agree. I think that, we would just be talking to thin air if it wasn't for you guys. So this makes it great. So Josh, you're on the spot here, brother. I saw you rifling your papers and you put them down. Either you got something for us, or you'd like say, I don't know, I need to think about this. Where are you at with it?
Oh yeah. Back to your communication thing. I do like apologetics, but also polemics. So I sort of study other religions to use their own sources, in a sense, to evangelize and to chip away at their beliefs. To Muslims use the Quran, to Mormons use the Book of Mormon, stuff like that. So in a sense, you got to know their stuff so you can be able to communicate Jesus to them, to something that they believe, right? So like somebody that only observes the Old Testament and doesn't believe the New Testament, you use the Old Testament to teach them Jesus when they don't accept the New, So that communication is key for everything. So yeah.
So finding some common ground or some kind of message that you can use to chip away. So that's good.
I mean, she was doing that in there, just trying to get the fundamentals. You have to have that foundation to have that communication. I had that with a Muslim not too long ago. It's like, no, we need to establish a foundation of what you actually believe before we can move on to the actual topic of even the live stream.
So I guess the movie itself is kind of an analogy of what you're talking about, finding that common ground of communication. And here's a short clip of that. This is how they communicated, and we're to find a bridge to them. That's what Jesus was, that bridge to be able to communicate to us, be able to say, I'm the Word come flesh. Here's what I'm here for. I'm going to be the sacrifice so that sin can be obliterated and we can have full relationship with God. That veil that separated us between God, that Holy of Holies, is now torn aside, and we can approach the grace, the throne of God with boldness, even though there has been sin. We come with repentance, and we can then enter that spot that was once reserved at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great analogy. So I guess Francis has a question for you here. I think this is worthy of an answer.
I mean, it depends. Define your terms. What's a nerd? I'm a partial Wingaling, and I'm a partial David Wood fan. So, and I'm here. So,
What do you mean by the word nerd and is and you and
That almost sounds like a Wingaling speaking. So,
I'm going more Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that could be too. Ufologists are a cult to pursue too. Yeah, you can get really wrapped up in that whole thing with it. Now, we did do a YouTube live stream on aliens, and we did talk about that. I believe that it's very well possible that somewhere in this universe, that God could have another species that is on the level of intelligence or beyond what we are, but more importantly, are morally responsible. We already know that there are aliens. We know 100% aliens are out there. We already know that, in the form of angels and demons. They're not of this world.
Mm-hmm.
They're not of this universe, so to speak, not this realm. But they are intelligent and they are morally responsible, right? As far as we know, there is no act of redemption for them. Their sin was final. Once it was done, it was done. And either, the fallen angels, demons, have to stand on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Then your wonderful other half said, Winglings for the win. We don't know that. I don't know if we could say that's it. Now, there is a conference coming up, and you want to talk a little bit about this conference?
This is the Seek and Share Truth Ohio conference.
Yes.
Google search, you'll find that. If you look at my channel, you'll see links for free tickets there. The conference is completely free. We're just crowdfunding it through donations alone, so we can keep it free to anyone that wants to attend. We have Dave Woods going to be talking, Hatun Tosh, Anthony Rogers, Isama Doc. I will be there talking. My wife will be there. You'll be there, right?
Yes.
Okay. I hope so, because you're on the list.
Yes.
If not, we're up creek without a paddle.
Yes.
And a bunch of others as well. So we will have fun. That is the 12th, 13th, and 14th of next month.
Now, I'm really excited about that. They did this last year. We had some heavy hitters come through. And so if you're part of the crowd...
Thaddeus is also going to be joining us.
Thaddeus, good.
I think we got like 11 speakers.
Okay, fantastic.
And Mary Harb too, right?
Yep.
Yes. So the venue, the speaker list, I would say, outstrips the venue. I mean, in terms of no put down for the venue itself. It's just like you've got some real heavy hitters that are coming here. It's going to be good, and you're going to be putting this to video and showing it later.
This will be live streamed during the conference is the plan, and then we have the possibility of a TV crew coming out and doing recording and releasing that actually on cable as well.
I'm not saying that if you're thinking about possibly coming, you say, "Oh, I'll just catch a video." No, I think if you have the opportunity,
it's much cooler to meet you in person.
It is much cooler to. I mean, you get to talk to these people, and that's to these events. I'll say, firsthand, that's the most positive part is the networking that's involved.
And we have a pre-conference thing over in Youngstown, Ohio.
Yes,
at a church there.
I was just going to put up there some comments here that Elle is making, so I'm going to put them up. Yes, we do. Winglings are awesome. Sorry, that was for previous, and that's heresy. We'll get rid of that as quickly as possible. Only haters hate on Winglings. Okay, yes, we're all saved. Okay, so then we got the 11th in Youngstown. So she's talking about the pre-conference.
Yep.
There's the event in Youngstown.
There's an event at Steel Valley Church in Youngstown.
Now, this is important because Youngstown there's a large Muslim population in Youngstown because of the university that's there. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
To my knowledge, yep.
So
that's what I'm told.
Yes. And so this, if you're looking at specifically ministry to Muslims, this is a good location for that. Because a lot of those kids, especially like from the Arab states
come in. Yeah, they use to my understanding, according to what I've been told, they use Youngstown's university as a landing pad, basically, to get in and then go to the universities they actually want to go to.
Oh, okay. So this is just a starter university, for them.
Basically.
But it's basically bringing the mission field here.
So
we can talk to them. So that is a great thing. So looking forward to the conference. Give you a chance for that plug, and then
tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. So this is a good opportunity to plug here too, and then I think we'll have some other plugs as well. John Newton Sci-Fi. I let people know where you will be tomorrow, 11 p.m. UK time. So I'm going to be joining Francis on his channel tomorrow night. Now it'll be 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's, if you're on Pacific, that's 3-hour difference. That's 3 p.m. tomorrow. But so really good topic. This is about being a man, and we're going to be going through some good things here. This is really a message I think that a lot of people need to hear, especially now. So we also have coming up very soon on Thursday, we are going to have there's our 100th episode. Then we have more than 100 videos out, but this is a 100th live stream. We're going to be going over finding the deeper message in the movie Signs. Now, I have, with that, coming up with this episode, I have a special guest who's going to be joining us. Jono from the Culture Crusader will be joining us. The first time that we're going to have him, and things work out, we're going to be doing this more together. We're networking with other channels and trying to see if we get a larger community going on here. He's delivering as far as I know, a very similar message to what I'm delivering. And then next week, we're going to be talking about, this is a book launch. That's not Tuesday, but Monday evening. When is a meteor more than a rock? So that is the launch for this book, A Taste of Earth. It's not really a book, it's a short story that will be hitting the Amazon and all the other outlets that are going to be available. We're going to have a launch party with that. We're going to be talking about the different characters, some of the bigger questions, the theological questions that this story brings up. And I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be good. And posing those questions to you guys as well. Seeing what you come up with answers. What's that?
Are you asking?
Asking what?
When is a meteor? Yeah. When
more
is
than
it
a rock.
More than yeah.
That'd be Monday. Right?
That would be Monday.
I assume the size, but who knows?
Okay. Yeah, this would not be so much a technical question, more of a philosophical. You'd have to read the story to find out. And that's kind of the point. So checking the chats one last time to see if there's any other additions to the themes that we have going on here. And we have got, I think this is about the conference? Wow, the nerds are going to Star Wars and Star Trek's here with this big space thing. Yes.
No, I think he's talking about your book.
Oh, yes. And then sweet, love new channels. I wouldn't have found this one without YBIC. Is that a university or something?
Yeah, it's a special university.
It is.
Only for elite people that find out on YouTube.
Elite nerds, I think is what it's for. YBIC. I got to think of an alternate for that one. You're big in, I don't know.
I don't know.
I have to think of something for that. So, of course, it's talking about this guy here. That's right. So I want to again thank you, especially you, Joshua, coming in, and for everybody else who contributed to the after watch party tonight. Again, looking for these themes, seeing how we can draw them out. And for this one is touching the wondrous, reaching out and finding the communication that trying to reach that which is beyond us, and how God had reached down and made that bridge, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. If the Word itself, that point of communication, the second person of the Trinity himself. So again, want to thank you all for participating. And Thursday morning, and then next Monday, the launch party. I'm looking forward to all this. Thanks again, guys.